MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. As always, we welcome Frank Trigg into the Don Best Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. Frank, we'll get to this weekend's fights in the next segment. But let's recap what has gone down in the past couple of days in this past week. Let's start off with Bellator. You know what? I expect a little bit more from Lyman Good against Koreshkov this past Friday night. And, you know, there's a little voice inside me that was saying to myself, is Lyman Good one of these guys that's going to get to the finals of the tournament or, you know, get to the championship and then lose? Is he really an elite fighter? And I kept saying that to myself, and it was more a selection against the Russian, because you never really know. It's kind of like predicting Russian politics, Frank.
Yeah.
With these Russian fighters, especially the one, you know, even Fedor himself, we don't really know. You never really knew which guy was going to show up. These new guys, we don't really know much about them. They all have great records, but, you know, they're YouTube highlights for a reason, right? Yeah. We see them beating up other guys that aren't really very good. So it's tough to tell, but great performance by Koreshkov. He beat him, he dominated him standing up, and hell, he won the ground game.
It was kind of, you know, really at the end of it became kind of embarrassing for Lyman Good, because at the very end of the fifth round, all of a sudden Koreshkov's taking him down. It was like a very random thing. My count could be wrong. Forgive me. I don't have it right in front of me. I wrote it down, but I didn't bring my paperwork in with me. That Lyman shot like 5 or 6 times, and by the second one, he stopped shooting fully. He took a half shot every time that he shot. It was like, I'm just going to reach and see what happens kind of thing. And he really wasn't dedicated trying to make it into a ground game. And we all knew. Everybody knew. If he tried to keep it on his feet, he was going to lose. Koreshkov was just a better stand-up guy. He needed to put it on the ground. It didn't seem like to me that Lyman Good was actually putting it on the ground or wanted to get there after he finished the second shot that didn't work. At that point, I would have stepped up my game and tried to shoot every 30 seconds to hopefully get him to fall down, because really even the commentators and Sean Wheelock and Jimmy Smith were talking about Good's got to get on top. He's getting beat. He's down 2 rounds of nothing. Being in the third round, he needs to get this to the ground. He never really did it.
There was a point as well. There was one brief instance. I think it was in the third round where Lyman Good basically had his back. Koreshkov seemed a little bit confused, and it looked like he was going to, you know, go in for the choke. Yet he gave up easily on that as well, and they sort of got up. He sort of let Koreshkov get up. You know, there was he didn't have that killer instinct for one reason or another. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, man, this guy fought. That was his third fight in probably about
12 weeks.
Yeah, 10, 12 weeks type thing.
Yeah.
There was a quick turnaround. There was a 2-week turnaround.
In the middle there.
Yeah, in between, you know, leading up to this fight before, you know, did it catch up to him? I know guys used to fight in tournaments and, you know, multiple fights in a day, but we live in a new era now.
You know, and the old era guard, like my guard when I first started, you know, we literally would fight 3-4 times a night and make $100, and that's if you won. If you lost any time in that process, you'd lost everything. The game has changed now with Bellator, and I've talked to a lot of Bellator guys. I've interviewed a lot of Bellator guys, and they like the tournament format. It gives them 2 or 3 weeks apart. Rad Martinez was telling me that he likes it because he's able to compete and then doesn't have to worry about taking some time off. He just downgrades his training a little bit and then swings it back up again to get ready for that in that third week to go and fight again. But it seemed like with Lyman Good, it caught up with him. He was stale. He didn't move fast enough. His punching power was severely off. His combo power was not there. He would throw 3-punch combos, but the middle punch was like a half a punch. You know, he threw like a 1, 2, 3, and the 1 and the 3 would be fully extended, but he missed the 3. And his 2 would kind of like, eh. And it was like, what is he doing? I don't understand what he's doing. He seemed to be really, really off, almost like he couldn't make weight and recover properly. And that, you know, in 10 weeks, you have to make weight 3 times, and I don't know how big Lyman is in between fights. If you had to cut 15 to 20 pounds and have to
I think 205, 207, 205, yeah.
You can't be that heavy, you know, in the middle there, because you're going to fall apart.
It's a lot of weight,
It's a lot of weight for him to cut down and for him to hold that process when he's used to being able to come down and bounce back up again. But let's not forget, he's also made a good amount of money the last little bit.
You mentioned Rad Martinez. Rad Martinez up next, coming up this Friday against another one of the Russians, and I'm going to butcher the name, but not as bad as Joey Odessa will a little bit later on. And Joey's just going to say the Russian guy. Yeah, Joey's giving up on the names right now. He's worse than Don Cherry. He's just giving up. It's just the Russian guy. But
he said worse than Don Cherry. I don't care. And that's funny to everybody. If you know sports broadcasting,
listen, Don Cherry has a hard time pronouncing like the last name Brown, or White. Like, you know, like,
at first when I first started, I'm sorry guys to get off on a tangent, but I'm a big hockey fan. Most of you guys know that. It's the one sport that every professional athlete looks back and goes, I could have played that sport. I'd have been great at that sport.
Yeah, you're an East Coaster, right?
Hockey's the one sport I wish I had played. Never learned how to skate. If I learned how to skate, I would have played hockey. That's the bottom line. I love hockey. And the first time I watched Don Cherry, I was like, is he really screwing up Jones? Like, is he really screwing up the last name Jones? And for a while, my dad was like, oh, because in hockey, there's a lot of Russians, there's a lot of Canadians.
French
got a lot
guys,
of French guys. You're not sure how the name is, whatever. I was like, no, but that guy's name is Jones. Like, you can't mess. He's like, no, it's that. And then as I learned later.
It's part of his shtick.
Yeah.
It's part of it. He almost doesn't want to pronounce the name probably.
He doesn't.
Almost kind of like Madden at the end.
Yeah.
John Madden, number 66. He just sort of gave up, and he's circling, and like guys sort of become caricature of themselves. But you got to be a big Don Cherry fan, just the way he dresses, Frank.
Dude, I love.
Yeah, you see this guy.
Seriously?
He's wearing like guy's basically wearing like Liberace's velvet drapes from like the 70s.
Imagine your
cut into a suit.
Imagine your grandmother's couch. Every time I used to go to my grandmother's house, I'm watching Don Cherry, like, that's where Don got that suit from. He cut it off the couch. He takes the cushions apart, folds it in the suit, and he puts it on.
You'd be pretty cool, actually. That look would work. Walking the casino floor.
Oh, I know.
You walk down, walk through Encore like that. People will be coming up. Are you for real? Chicks would want their picture with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, in Vegas, there's certain towns where Don Cherry is going to be a huge hit. Every major Canadian town, from Edmonton to Montreal to Toronto, he's a huge hit just because he's Don Cherry. In the States, New York, L.A., Vegas. Those are 3 spots he's going to be a huge hit. And no one even knows who he is.
Problem is, the United States is too politically incorrect for Don Cherry.
Yeah.
He would have been fired a long time ago. And
yeah.
He almost doesn't care. He's getting older right now. He's got a lot of money.
We're far too sensitive down here.
I'll just call him Shamulev.
Yeah.
Whatever. The submission artist.
Yeah,
and he did get it done last time.
Yes,
and
he did.
He did get it done, and I lost betting against him actually.
Oh.
And he got hit though. He was getting hit. Doesn't seem like his stand-up's great, but he was able to get. I believe it was the arm bar. He was able to take care of it, and vicious submission game. Yet here we got Rob Martinez. Typical another USA versus America grinder wrestler type of guy that's got the heart of heart of a champion, basically. You're a heart of a warrior, I should say.
Both these guys, we all know it's going to go to the ground. He's not going to try and stand up with them. Rad's going to take it to the ground as quick as he can. He's going to end up on top. The question is, once he's on top, what's going to happen? That's the problem, because he's got the typical wrestling style of being able to neutralize submission game and being able to neutralize the Sambo Russian style, but he's not going to be able to stop it forever. So he's got to find that pace and find that pattern. Rad's got a great ground and pound game, but he doesn't use it until after he's tried to tire a guy out. The problem is, to tire a guy out, you've got to punch him in the head. You got to punch him in the body to make him get tired. And Rad's not going to stand. He's not going to make it a boxing workout and then take him down. He's going to punch and take him down. That's what he's going to do. I interviewed him a couple of days ago, and that's basically what his game plan is. He's going to punch him and take him down. That's what the game plan is. But it's like punching Anderson Silva and taking him down. Now what?
You mentioned the Sambo. We talk about that that old school Russian bear mentality. That's what this guy brings to the table. Kind of like the weird angles and very unorthodox. He's wild with his shots. Even more so, like Koreshkov is probably the most technically sound of all these new Russian guys that have arrived. Would you agree with that?
I agree, absolutely.
This guy's a little bit more wild, but he's sort of got that crazy Russian thing going for him. He's got that Russian Sambo bear thing going.
And they dig underneath, and they put themselves in a Sambo position, also puts you in a space where you're not going to get punched in the face, you're not going to get hit, but you're still able to get some kind of submission, whether it's arm bar, triangle, knee bar, ankle lock. You're still able to keep your face buried, you're not going to get hit, and still working for the submission.
He was the fight, Frank. Sorry, he was the one that we were talking about. That we saw the positions we've never seen before.
He pulls stuff out of his butt. He makes stuff up. He's like, I'm going to try this thing.
He's all like sideways. He's like, no, I like this. I'm going to hit him like this.
Yeah.
You can't do that in training. Like, it's just that raw Russian style.
And he'll get in that position. If Rad gives him any kind of elbow or arm or wrist or heel or knee that he can get a hold of, he'll bury his head underneath. He'll take some body shots, but he won't take those head shots. And he'll keep digging that body part out till he can get it submitted, and that puts Rad in a lot of bad danger.
Who are you leaning with in this fight?
Well, the problem is that, like you said earlier, we don't really know that much about the Russians. We have no idea where they're coming from, who they fought, what they're doing. So we're not really sure if their records are padded or not. And we go back and look at the record of the opponents they beat. We don't know those guys either. So they're beating guys that could be good, could not be good, so they could be good and not be good. And because I'm nationalistic, I'm leaning towards the American Rad Martinez. That's just the way I am. But I also lean towards Lyman Good last week and took a beating on that one.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really upset about that. It's one of those fights, when you know right away you're on the wrong side.
Yeah, within 45 seconds.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, man, I'm on the wrong side of this one.
Can I call my guy up and have him cancel that one?
I was sort of hoping for the screw job. That's always the thing when you get the call from one of your buddies. Well, maybe the judges, you never, maybe there's a screw job coming. But no, it didn't happen. All right, speaking of screw jobs, this is what I asked you guys on Twitter. And it's funny, I asked you guys on Twitter, who do you like this week? as far as the Fox card is concerned, and we'll get to that card in the next segment. And normally we're overwhelmed because you guys all love to gamble, so normally we're overwhelmed with selections. But I also asked you guys what you thought about Faraz Zahabi's comments that Nick Diaz is actually the number one contender in George St. Pierre and in the camp's opinion, not Johnny Hendricks. They didn't just say, oh, we want to fight Diaz and Hendricks. They said, no. And he basically said, what has Hendricks done? Diaz has a bigger body of work. He deserves it. Guy's coming off a drug suspension. Guy lost his last fight. You could argue it was close, yeah. And hell, I was there, but I was drunk, but I thought he won. At the time, I thought you could make an argument that Diaz won. But to hear Zahabi come out now and start talking about this, it's either A, what I brought up off the top of the program, that we have a problem now in which the inmates are running the asylum. And we always talk about fighters don't get paid enough, blah, blah, but now it looks like the champions are calling their shots, and that's not what the UFC is supposed to be about, because George St. Pierre can say, oh, I'm not afraid of Hendricks. I want to make more money by fighting Diaz. I want to make more money, and I want to beat Diaz up. Or B, they don't want any part of Johnny Hendricks, just like Anderson Silva has zero interest in ever fighting Chris Weidman. What do you make of this?
If you look at the body of work, you just have to go back and look. Inside of 2 minutes against Martin Kampmann, inside of 2 minutes with John Fitch, arguably the two best guys in the weight class right now that are active with the suspension still of Diaz. Hendricks beats both of them up inside of 2 minutes. Inside of 2 minutes. Not inside of 2 rounds. Not inside of 3 rounds. Inside of the first round, inside the first 2 minutes, he knocks them both unconscious. Diaz, suspension, lost his last fight. Look at his body of work. He beats up a 155-pound BJ Penn. He beats up a couple other guys who were under. He was
the level of competition that he's racked up these wins against. No disrespect against the Strike Force guys and stuff, but Paul Daly.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
and Paul Daly. These type of guys.
No one outstanding. No one super studly.
Do people confuse entertaining because his fights are so damn entertaining with great?
Well, we come back into this whole game that I'm having an issue with. Back in my day, we had no choice. Matt Hughes fought the guys that Dana White and Joe Silva told him he was going to fight. He didn't get a choice. He didn't get to say, I don't want that guy. He got told, and he took the fights. He fought all of us and beat us all soundly. Every guy he fought during his reign was in the top 10 at the time that he fought him. That was it. It was done. In this new era, the GSP era, I like to call it, even though now he's the most celebrated champ, he's beat Matt Hughes' record for the most amount of title defenses. But in the middle there, he didn't have a guy that popped in that was not ranked, that just shows up because he just kind of has to be the next guy and fights and gets knocked out with Matt Serra. He doesn't have that Matt Hughes didn't have that in his background, his history. GSP has that. Now these guys are kind of saying, I don't want to fight this guy. If I'm GSP, I'm coming off a position where a guy that I know is a better wrestler than me and has shown it during the matches that he will not, even though ESPN came with that top 5 ranked of the best 5 wrestlers there are right now in MMA, with GSP was number 1 and Fitch was number 5. Weidman's in there I think he's number 2 or number 3. But these guys are all ranked as far as the best wrestler in there, and Hendricks is not on that list. Hendricks is a better wrestler, a better MMA wrestler than GSP is. The problem is that nobody understands that because he's knocking guys out in the first round. So you never have a chance to see him take you down and hold you down and beat you up like John Fitch does. He's beating you up so early, you never get to see anything else. Johnny Hendricks is hands down the number 1 guy in the weight class. Nick Diaz is the money-making fight at the weight class right now. GSP's not going to fight Anderson Silva. What's the next big money fight? Diaz.
Yeah.
Chael Sonnen versus John Jones is happening because Chael stepped up and begged Dana White for the fight when everybody else was turning it down, and so Chael gets the fight. But Chael has not fought at 205, is not ranked at 205, and just lost at 185. He's more entertaining. It's a bigger name. It's a bigger entertainment value. That's the fight. Same thing is happening at 170 with Diaz and GSP.
Because GSP doesn't like Diaz either.
No.
And it's the only time he ever said, I'm going to hurt this guy.
Yeah.
It's the only fighter George St. Pierre ever said, I'm going to beat this guy like he's never been beat before. But that's all good. That's all good. But the fact is, it didn't work out. The guy got suspended, and now it's Johnny Hendricks. So fight Johnny Hendricks, and then if, you win, you want to fight Diaz down the road. But and it's as you're saying, Anderson Silva doesn't want to fight Weidman. John Jones doesn't want to fight Sonnen. Oh, he doesn't want to fight this guy. Oh, I don't want to fight Machida again because my pay-per-view sales were down. These guys bitch more than boxers. Yeah. This is the new problem. That's what, and it sucks. It sucks because you guys, it sucked for you guys as fighters in your era Because you cannibalized each other. That's what made Chuck Liddell so great. Yeah. Holy crap, look at it. He fought everybody. Look at this. And, you think he wanted to fight all these guys? Probably not.
No.
You know what I mean?
He didn't want to fight Rich Franklin.
No.
I mean, he came out and said he didn't want to fight I like Rich Franklin. I don't want to fight Rich Franklin, especially, coming on the end of his career. He's like, I got no choice.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, and you got to respect the guy like Chuck Liddell because he always said, no matter what they tell me is who I'm going to fight. Nowadays, whoever you tell me I'm going to fight, if I like it, I'll take it. If I don't like it, I'll pick somebody else.
That hurts the fans. It hurts the sport. This is the beginning of the end. This is a real problem. Forget about steroids and the super fights. This is a real problem that they've lost control.
Yeah.
The whole strength of the UFC was every 6 months, every 3 months, you were going to see fighter A fight fighter B. The winner would be fighting again in 4 months against another guy that won. And it sucked for the fighters because they all cannibalized each other, but that's what made it great for the fans. There was always great fights. We don't get that anymore.
Most people forget that when GSP was healthy, he only fought twice a year. Now you're looking at he had an 18-month layoff, and he's going to argue and fuss and fight, whether it's his camp doing it or it's the posturing or just to keep his name in the media. You're not really sure. I haven't talked to George personally to go, look, who do you want to fight? We're getting this for free. We don't know exactly what's happening, but it's going to be at least another 6 or 7 months before they go, yeah, that's the guy you're fighting.
Oh, he's not even going to fight in March or May or anything.
No,
He'll fight in the summertime.
Yeah, it's going to be summertime again because he's a guy that we think that, he hasn't fought in 18 months. So you just fought. You haven't fought in 18 months. Go fight again. We forget that during the 18 months that when he wasn't fighting, he was in rehab every day.
He was
rehab. The world in rehab and trying to train, trying to get better.
All right, so you think, what do you think? In 30 seconds, are they ducking Johnny Hendricks? Was this the first seed of the tree that they're trying to plant that we're not fighting Johnny Hendricks? Johnny Hendricks, pissed off, rightfully so, says, I didn't think he was ducking me at first. He goes, now he's trying to take food off my table, old school. He goes, taking money away from me and my kids.
I think he is trying to duck, but I know Ted Williams, I know Team Takedown, Johnny's manager, and they're not going to let it go. They're going to be on him every day. They're going to be talking to Joe every day, trying to make this thing happen. I think right now they're trying to duck it. It's going to be a little while, but I do think the fight eventually is going to happen. It's going to be the GSP Hendricks fight, and I think that's next for GSP. I don't think they're going to let Diaz in because it also puts a bad segue into a lot of other guys when, hey, you fail a drug test, no matter what the drug test is, and it's happening with Overeem right now. You fail a drug test, no matter what it is, if it's a legal drug, you come back in, title fight. You got to stop doing that kind of stuff. No, and Keith Kaiser's come out against it as well. So, let's understand.
First time ever, Kaiser comes out and says, hey, stop booking guys because he sees the rumors. Oh, Overeem fights February 6th. Yeah. It's like, dude, you don't have a license, right? It's pretty presumptuous, yet they're going to get the license. They'll get the license. That's why King Mogok can't because he called the girl a racist bitch. And they try to keep a relationship with these racist bitches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't want people ruffling their feathers. The Nevada State Athletic Commission has a lot of control over the UFC's fortunes. All right, let's get to the fights. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Let's talk about this UFC on Fox card. We got some good stuff. Frank Trigg joining us in studio. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues.